Welcome back for day 25 of 31 monsters in 31 days. Let's find out who we're making today. A vampire. All right, let's get started.
While we're sketching out the plan and making the basic blob shape that all the monsters in this series are built off of, I'm going to give you a bit of a history of vampires and why I included them on my monster list. If you want to see slower step-by-step instructions on how to make this basic blob form, check out this video. For details on how I do my paper mache, check out this video. Both are linked in the description. Vampire-like creatures that rise from death and drink blood have a long and wide-ranging history in folklore. So it can be hard to pin down an exact set of characteristics and origin for our modern-day conception of vampires. Many of the common traits of vampires that we would see today, such as fangs, aversion to garlic, lack of reflection, come to us from Eastern European folklore. The folklore may have developed from misunderstanding of natural human decomposition after death. Fluids leaking from the nose or mouth and receding gums and the appearance of growth of hair or fingernails might have given the impression that the dead were somehow still growing and feeding. The transformation of vampires from folkloric monster to pop culture icon is largely attributable to Irish author Bram Stoker. His 1897 novel Dracula introduced us to the aristocratic Transylvanian vampire who was immortal, could shapeshift, control minds, and had superhuman strength and pointed animal-like teeth. The visual image we associate with Count Dracula, including the cape with stand-up collar, fancy tuxedo, and slicked back hair, originated with Universal's 1931 film of the same name. Bela Lugosi's portrayal of the titular vampire established the character as a cultural icon and archetype of vampires in later media. Count Dracula continues to be a popular Halloween costume almost 100 years after Bela Lugosi's portrayal, so I had to include the vampire on my monster list, and I'm gonna make Count Dracula. Normally, I make eyes and teeth ahead of time with air dry clay, but I didn't make any this time. So in this case, I'm using some oven baked clay, so they'll be ready to go in 20 minutes. I know oven baked clay isn't an option for everybody, so don't worry, air dry clay works just as well. So I'm sculpting a pair of eyes and 2 vampire fangs, and I'm popping them in the oven to cure. While those are baking, I'm going to use some folded strips of paper to outline a little vest and the waistband of his tuxedo pants. Next, we're going to make his cape. I'm gluing some scrunched up folded Bristol board to make the size of his cape. I'll stick these on with hot glue and smooth them into the blob with masking tape. From here, I'm using a very similar technique to how I made the robes on my Grim Reaper project. I've cut this shape out of some Bristol board, and then I'm just pinching it into a curve and hot gluing it to the base of the blob. I'll work my way with these shapes all around the sides and back of the blob. I'm going to give the sculpture a new base to reinforce all those folds I just made. I'm placing the little vampire onto the cardboard, tracing around the bottom of his cape, then using my craft knife to cut that shape out. I'll hot glue that onto the existing base of the blob, then I'll use short strips of masking tape to smooth all of that together. Off camera, I used some trial and error to figure out the shape of this piece of cereal box to make his cape's collar. I'll hot glue and tape that into place. I covered all those new additions with a couple coats of paper mache and let those dry. Now we're going to make the Count's mouth. I'm making his lower lip by folding a small wad of paper towel into some gluey paper like a taco and smoothing that onto Dracula's face. Of course, my vampire's eyes and teeth have been long out of the oven, so I can hot glue his little fangs in place over his lower lip. Now, using some more folded paper, I'm placing a top lip on top of the fangs and blending it into the sculpture with some smaller bits of paper. I wanted him to have a subtle little grin, so I made some comma-shaped bits of paper and put them on the sides of his mouth. I blended those in with some small bits of paper mache too. At this point, I also made him this little nose out of foam board, and I covered that in paper mache before setting everything aside to dry. Now that his face is dry, I'm hot gluing his eyeballs onto his face, painting some irises and pupils, and then covering his eyes with a nice protective coat of glossy UV resin. Now we're going to make some eyelids. I'm coating a bit of paper in glue, then taking a scrap of paper towel, twisting that up and folding that inside the paper like a little taco. I'll fold that in half and wrap that around the bottom of his eyeballs. I'm using some more paper to make some upper eyelids. I'm going for a bit of an apathetic expression here, so I'm making the eyelids go straight across his eye, cutting off the top of the iris. I'll use some extra wads of paper and paper mache to blend the eyelids into the rest of the sculpture. I just realized I haven't made ears yet, so I'll make a quick pair of ears out of cereal box. I'm cutting a small slit into the ear to act as a dart. I'm overlapping the legs of the dart with some glue to give the cardboard a little bit of shape, and then I'm bulking out the top of each ear with a bead of hot glue. When the glue has cooled and set, I'm covering the ears with a bit of paper mache, then setting them aside to dry. When my vampire's face is dry enough, I'm hot gluing his nose onto his face. I'm using some small bits of paper to blend the nose into the sculpture. I'm also sticking on his ears and blending those in too. Now I'm going to use these foam hair rollers I got from the dollar store to make his slicked back hair. I'm taking out the plastic end caps and the internal wire, then using a pair of scissors to cut the foam in half along the length. I'll hot glue the foam across his head, mimicking the little ridges a comb would make if he was smoothing his hair straight back. The top of his head is looking a little bit small, so I'm using a few extra foam rollers here to build up his head a bit. And of course, all that foam gets covered with a couple layers of paper mache. When all that final paper mache is dry, he's going to get coated all over in matte black. I'm going to use a dry brush paint technique to paint this guy. This video is a good resource on how to do the dry brush paint technique. Check it out if you wanna, it's linked in the description. When the base coat is all dry, I'm going in with a combination of a makeup sponge and a dry paintbrush to give him this pale skin tone. I found it wasn't quite pale enough for the undead, so I'm going in with a bit of white on top of that. I'm wanting to paint the inside of his cape red, but after two dry brushed coats, the red wasn't as vibrant as I wanted, so I'm mixing some of my red with some gesso, which makes this lovely pink color, which I'm dry brushing on. When that's dry, I'm going back in with just my straight red paint, and that's giving me the vibrant red color I'm after. His slick back hair is getting a little bit of dark brown brushed all over. Finally, I'll brush some white on his shirt and vest, glue some black felt onto the base, and our vampire Count Dracula is done. And here's our finished guy. What do you think? He's freaking me out a little bit, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, but he kind of looks like a guy I used to work with. And honestly, if I had to pick between that guy and an actual blood-sucking vampire, I'd probably choose a vampire. But let me know what you think of him in the comments. And please hit the like button if you think I did a good job. Since I'm a smaller channel, anytime you like or comment, it really helps me out because it tells YouTube this video is worth watching. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss tomorrow's video. Subscribe to my Patreon if you want to see it ad-free. And again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.